You know that feeling, right? When you're at a party and it's just more than a party, where the music, the people, the place, it all just clicks and creates something really powerful. It's a feeling of community, of ritual, even rebellion. Well, that feeling is at the very heart of a secret history, a constant search for a stage where we can all find it. So let's get into it. So, you asked someone who was right there in the middle of the illegal rave scene of the early 90s, and they use this one word, utopian. And that word, man, it says everything. It tells you this was never just about the music. This was a full-on movement, fueled by this radical, optimistic belief that just for one night, they could build a perfect world. For the folks who pioneered this scene, calling it a spiritual realization isn't an exaggeration at all. By taking the party out of the clubs and into fields, forests, wherever, they were literally creating a new temporary world, a space completely free from the rules of mainstream society. And right there, you see this huge clash in perspectives. For as long as people have gathered to dance, the authorities have often seen it as dangerous, chaotic, the devil's music, right? But for the people on the inside, the ones on the dance floor, it's always been about freedom, community, and an experience that feels, almost spiritual. It's really easy to think of all this as just a 90s thing. But what if I told you this impulse, this fight for a place to get together and dance, goes way, way back? We're talking decades, even generations. The truth is, the illegal rave movement is really just one chapter in a long, kind of secret history of outsider cultures. Time and time again, people on the margins have had to create their own stages, their own spaces to express themselves when the mainstream world just wouldn't let them. And you can see this pattern pop up all through history. In the 1940s, you had the swing kids defying Nazi occupation, holding secret jazz parties in cellars. Flash forward to the 70s, and disco becomes this vital sanctuary for queer and Black communities. Then in the 80s, techno rises up from the ashes of post-industrial Detroit. And that, of course, brings us right back to that 90s rave explosion in the UK. Each era, each sound, it was its own unique rebellion with a beat. So what connects all of them? Well, it's this common thread, a bunch of really fundamental human needs. The need for a space where you're free from repression, a place to find your people, your community, to build an identity that's yours, not what everyone else tells you it should be, and, the simple, profound freedom of just dancing. This quote just nails how high the stakes really were. For the communities that created it, disco wasn't just fun music. No way. It was a lifeline. It was a political and social act of defiance. It was a declaration that they existed and that their joy mattered. But what is it about these spaces that makes them so powerful? Well, to understand that, we can actually turn to a pretty academic place, the world of theater. It might sound a little strange, but it offers a really fascinating way to look at club culture. In fact, research from the University of Vienna dives into this very idea. It suggests that what happens on a dance floor actually has all the core components of a theatrical performance. As a heart of this theory is this beautifully simple formula from a theater scholar, Erica Fischer-Lichte. She argues that all you really need for theater to happen is an actor performing an action for a spectator. AXS. That's it. That's the entire formula. Okay, so let's apply this to a club. Who's the actor? Well, it could be the DJ, sure, but it's also every single dancer. The performance? That's the music, the collective movement, the whole vibe of the room. And the spectator? That's the crowd, watching the DJ, but they're also watching each other. And that's where things get really interesting. And that is the key insight. On a dance floor, that line between the performer and the audience just completely dissolves. Every single person is both an actor and a spectator. It's exactly what the owner of Studio 54, Steve Rubel, meant when he said, "Our guests come to no show, they are the show." Everyone is part of the performance. This brings us right back to that historical tension. Because if the audience is the show, it means the whole event is spontaneous, it's unpredictable, and it's hard to control. And that is something authorities have always been wary of. It's a conflict that is still raging today. This number, this represents a very modern threat. Under a proposed new law in France, this is the fine that organizers of an unauthorized party could face. It's proof that the fight for the right to gather and dance is far, far from over. So this new law would force even small gatherings to be declared a whole month in advance, a rule that just completely undermines the spontaneous underground spirit of these events. And while the official reason is always about public health and safety, for many people in the scene, that justification sounds eerily familiar. It feels a lot like history repeating itself. The artist Jennifer Cardini really captures that feeling of a massive cultural and generational disconnect. The fear is that this kind of law doesn't actually solve problems. It just pushes these essential cultural gatherings further into the shadows, which could actually make them even less safe. So why does this matter so much? Why do people keep fighting for these spaces decade after decade? Well, it's because the night, the club, the party, they fulfill some of our most basic human needs. First off, they offer escape, a temporary break from all the pressures of daily life. Academics even have a name for it, a moratorium of the everyday. It's a chance to hit pause on work, on responsibilities, and even on the person you're supposed to be during the day. They also give us community. In a world that can feel incredibly isolating, the dance floor is where you find your tribe. It's this amazing connection built on shared taste and a mutual understanding that doesn't need a single word to be spoken. And finally, it's a ritual. The act of gathering, of moving together to a beat, that is one of the oldest human rituals there is. It's a way to feel connected, to feel transcendent, to just feel powerfully and collectively alive. And this brings us to our final, crucial question. This cycle of creation and crackdown has pretty much defined club culture for almost a century now. As one generation's underground becomes another's mainstream, that impulse to create a new, secret space just begins all over again. The search for the stage never really ends. The only question is, where will it appear next?